Right, guys, welcome back to another podcast. So this is podcast number 14 of Conscious Conversation. And today's guest, so I've swapped out my good friend Craig, and I'm joined by Alex and Sarah. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're good, thanks.
How are you?
I'm really good, yeah. So just saying it before we went live that I just finished a podcast with Craig, and there was just a quick 10-minute turnover. I'm already on the second podcast, so it's an interesting process. So see how this goes.
You'll be pro at it by the end of lockdown.
Oh, I feel like I'm going to start fumbling on my words and slurring. So hopefully you guys take most of the conversation, and I'm just listening and asking stuff. But yeah, so when I approached you guys last week, when I approached Alex, the intention was to try and get more guests on our podcast so we get different angles from different professionals and people that we know. So we're fortunate that we're surrounded by really cool people. But then I thought it's not just, it'd be nice to have Sarah on as well, because you get the nutrition aspect of it, especially since she's been posting a lot about that and how you guys are doing with the lockdown. So let's start there. Let's start with your professional backgrounds and how you guys are responding to the lockdown.
Do you want to go first?
Okay, so I've been in the industry now for coming up to 3 years-ish. And I'm currently now at Pure Gym Urban Exchange in Manchester City Centre, where I've been for, I suppose over a year and a half. And that's kind of, I don't know too much more to say.
Well, you're not upselling yourself very much, are
no,
you?
I haven't. I've completely just underestimated everything.
Do you know what we should do? Alex, you should sell Sarah, and Sarah, you should sell Alex. And that will help.
That's better, right? Okay. So Alex has been in the industry for 3 years as a personal trainer. He is an online coach as well, so he's been doing that for the past year. He also works with a few other brands. So there's Bulk Powders, which are a nutrition company. Oh yeah. He also works with a meal prep company. And yeah, his, I think, Instagram presence has grown quite a lot over the past 18 months especially. Is it all coming back to you now?
Yeah, but now I have to big you up now as well, don't I?
yeah, now it's the other way around. So what about Sarah?
Well, so you qualified this year, haven't you? And have kind of been, it's motivating, and she's we've been going out for almost 5 years, and went after uni and choosing a job. It was she didn't really necessarily know what to do, and started working at Barclays and went down that banking route and never got that inspiration and joy out of it. And slowly your love for the gym and fitness and food just kept developing, didn't it? And then over when was it you joined Block? A year ago?
Coming up to a year, yeah.
So then joined Block, and obviously then I remember you being I'm happy now because I'm now in the industry. And I think that then gave you this amazing exposure to everything around it, and an amazing, we always say, the Manchester fitness community is absolutely wicked. So being involved in that, and then that's just continued to develop to being actually, you know what, I want to be a coach. I want to go down that route, and actually then qualified as a PT. And you're in such a good position because you spent time way before you qualified building up your social media and building your presence, your brand. And then now you've qualified, it's right, well, let's go smashing it. And you've now been doing the online side of things, and really just going heads on for it. And I even said to you the other day, I was you're at the stage where I am now, but I was you're so much further ahead than I was in 2 months. So you're gonna absolutely smash it in the years to come. So it'll be cool.
If only
Sarah.
A lockdown.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
I think it was a good thing.
The thing with Sarah is a large portion of us that work at Block have seen the transformation, have seen the transition. So a lot of people, when it comes to social media, you end up meeting these people or seeing these people when they've made a name for themselves or they've done pretty well for themselves. But you rarely ever see someone go from zero to where they are right now and where they're going. And then when you see that, you really do start to appreciate. Personally, I always thought, these opportunities came about, you met the right people at the right time, things just fell into place for you. But you can get easily into that mindset when you see someone who's already established themselves. But with you, we've seen the work that you've been doing. So, you really do understand and appreciate how hard it is just to kind of get consistent content out there and just to push everything out there and almost become vulnerable as well, because you're entering a realm where people are judging you based on the way you look, the way you're acting, and just, it's quite amazing to watch that. Whereas with Alex, when I came across you in Pure Gym, you were just establishing yourself, but I was away from Pure Gym because I moved to training in JD. So I didn't really see that transformation or that transition.
No, yeah, true.
So it's quite amazing. And to see this happen through the lockdown, I think the lockdown, again, it's also been a good thing because you get time to focus on these aspects of your life where originally Sarah would be working in block most of the time, working on a course, and then the Instagram stuff would just be a side project almost.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think especially for me and you as well, I think lockdown has definitely been a chance for me to almost be right, this is my opportunity to do all the things that I always wanted to do but maybe didn't have as much time to do it. I always had the time to fit it in, but the quality and the amount of effort that I put into it was never always there. So I've definitely took it to my advantage that this is the best time for me to do all these things that I've got planned. And I think this past 6 weeks, so much has changed. And I think a lot of people get into, at the start of lockdown, we're kind of in a bit of a rut of what can I do? What options have I got? And I think it's amazing if you just look back at the past 8 weeks, how much has actually gone on and how much we have done. So
it's been a huge blessing for a lot of us. Just talking to Julia last week about it. I think she'll be the next guest anyway, but she was mentioning it. She goes, I'm not trying to talk about something that we probably shouldn't be talking about, but she did say, look, I know that a lot of people are struggling and they found this whole lockdown thing hard, but personally, she found it the best thing in the world for her because she was just burning herself out doing the same thing over and over again. And she just needed to step away, but she didn't know how to step away. So this almost forced her to step away. And it's been the same for me. I thought I was going to really push my online content in this period. I've done the opposite because I feel as though I've needed it. I just needed to get away for a bit, just to get away from all the attention from the classes, and then on top of that, doing photo shoots. And it's just, it's good and it's a nice lifestyle to live, but you also need to slow everything down as well. And don't really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a different lifestyle. I think now we've all adapted to change so quickly. It's amazing to watch. I think everyone panicked at the start, for example, how we're all going to keep in our routines with training, getting up early, stuff like that. But I think now we're all getting on with our day-to-day life like it's a normal thing, and you just adapt to change quite quickly. So it's good for us.
Well, it's been on now so long. I'm worried about coming back again.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going to be really weird.
that sort of 4:45 a.m. wake up, I'm going to be like, what are you doing with your life?
It's made you self-reflect like that as well. So I've actually started waking up early. Usually I'm quite late. I used to wake up about 10, 11 o'clock. Now I've been up at 8, 9 o'clock and just getting shit done. It's really interesting how it changes your daily habits.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed the training as well. So let's talk about that as well. But first of all, Alex, would it be fair to say that one of the reasons that you become successful is because you're focusing on the part of the fitness industry that doesn't really sell, it doesn't put a lot of light on it, which is the mobility and the flexibility aspect. And I think, go for it.
Well, yeah, massively. And I think what's interesting, I did this, I spoke about it on my own podcast the other day of how much I now place performance over aesthetics, and how back when I first started in the gym, it was complete opposite. But it is so important. And as you said, it's the thing that doesn't necessarily sell. And I'm not trying to sell to people that I want to get people in shape and I want people to feel great about how they look. But first and foremost, it's let's get you moving well. And it's a byproduct. And what I love about focusing on that moving well and mobility and performance is you get both. So when you just focus on aesthetics, you could look amazing, but then you can't run up the stairs. You can't jump around. You've got no mobility. You can't You can't do anything with like in terms of flexibility. Whereas by flipping that on its head and focusing on that performance and focusing on everything that involves around that, you get both. You're not going to be able to do the things that you can and take it to those extremes. And then you'll be like a fat person and you'll look rubbish. Like it just wouldn't happen. So I completely agree. It's like, it's a thing that doesn't necessarily sell, but in a way, I think that's helped to sell myself because it's established my niche. And especially when I look at like my social media and what kind of happened to really push my growth up was really just pushing out loads of mobility content and kind of offering both, because obviously you've got physios and you've got all these people who are accredited and that's all they do. And then you've got people who just post workouts. And I think I went in at the right time of when there wasn't many people doing both on social media. Like there was people and coaches all doing it, but I think I just came in and started marketing at kind of the right time.
Yeah,
I think it was like a bit unique as well. Like I think there's so many accounts, especially on Instagram, of people posting workouts. And I think we've even said before, like anyone can post a workout video. Anyone can think of 4 exercises and put them on a video, but putting a bit more effort into actually putting like a mobility routine or something with that bit more value that the everyday person won't think about if they've not got the knowledge behind it. So I think it's just using your personal training qualification and your gym floor knowledge to your advantage and putting that bit more value out there as well.
But it's like when people say to me like, oh, I just don't know about mobility. I'm like, yeah, but neither did I. And they're like, oh, I need to go on a mobility course. I'm like, no, you don't. I just used to spend time YouTubing and reading articles and watching. And at the end of the day as well, following the right people on social media helps massively. Like I still to this day learn so much off who I follow. Mm-hmm. And the same with YouTube and the same with Instagram. And I think that's what so many people they think that, oh, I have to do a course. And it's like, you just Google it. Like if you want to know some good stretches, good mobility exercises for your hips, just type top 10 into Google and you're going to be able to find new exercises that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, I think it's really important as well. Like I've always been a big advocate of it. But then my issue was, like you said, it's very difficult to sell something that, again, mobility takes way longer than aesthetics. Plus, you don't get the immediate results. So someone looking at you won't realize that you're mobile unless you display that. So if you're going into the extremes of mobility, going into like splits and stuff, and yeah, that's different. But I always felt it started. So when I got into mobility in 2014, it's largely because I had knee problems when squatting. Now, I can squat deep anywhere. I can squat deeper than most people that go into a squat anywhere. But I wasn't using that because I thought a squat is doing what other people are doing, which is not even getting to 90 degrees. But then once I went beyond that, I realized, actually, I've been doing this shit since I was a kid. Why am I not doing this? And by not doing that, it was causing the direct effect on my knee. So just working backwards and realizing that, okay, and I went against everything that the fitness industry said. So stretching before you train, that was a huge sort of like mantra of mine. So stretching before you train. And it was so weird. I wouldn't do it now, but I used to do reverse pyramid sets. So I used to start off with the heaviest set first. So I used to stretch, go with the heaviest set, and then work my way down and go with volume. And people used to be like, how the fuck are you just walking in there squatting like 120, all the way down and pausing for a second at the bottom? But it's just, I just think that the way to learn all these things is, like you said, do a bit of research, find at least one stretch. So if you're having problems with your hip, find one stretch and stick with it. Try that shit out.
Yeah.
And then see how the experience feels, then build on that. And I think, like you said, people get way too caught up with, where do I start? Find what's causing you the biggest problems, start from there, right?
Yeah, and you touched on it as well about how you started focusing on it when you like hurt your knee, and that's something I get across to people a lot now. Is it's like we shouldn't focus on mobility when so many people focus on it when they get an injury, and it's like no, you should focus on it in the first instance, so to avoid that almost ever happening, and so you can continue doing the things you want to do. And I think that's a lot of people's mindsets is they get injured. And then they start focusing on it. And then it just becomes like and they're like, oh, actually, this is really good. I enjoy it. But I think to try and flip it on its head and do it the other way around is where it's going to be more beneficial. Well, beneficial to not get injured in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, the industry we're in, you're going to get injured. it's just one of those things. You're going to try and
Yeah.
minimize those injuries, but you're going to get injured. And if you're in a better situation to reduce the injury in the first place, I think, that's where all of the stuff that you've learned about mobility and using the stuff and bringing it into practice comes into play,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, so I don't know if you guys have heard of a guy called Kit Lockley.
Yeah.
No, so he's big. If you know anything about, especially the acrobatic side of flexibility, so going into like front splits, pancakes, etc. He's big in that. He used to teach at the University of Western Australia. He's retired now, but he has a lot of programs out there. And a lot of my stuff is based on his research. Originally, I was doing it without realizing it, and then I finally found a mentor that backed up what I was saying about making sure that you can squat all the way down and having a certain range of mobility. And I found his methods very interesting. And he describes it as you want to bring some sort of elegance back to your body. So the best analogy he uses is a cat. Now, if you approach a cat and a cat doesn't want you to approach it, what happens? Everything stands out. All the muscles contract, and it just becomes like a fiery ball of just pure fury. But the single instance you leave it alone, it manages to relax. All the body slows down. And Kit describes that as cats have the ultimate yoga because every single day they stretch off their entire body. So they can lick every single part of their body. And that's something that we are never taught, obviously not to lick every single part of the body, but to have that sort of flexibility from a young age and maintain it throughout life. And now we're suffering for it, and especially sat on a chair. We're seeing the repercussions of not doing that.
Yeah. I'm noticing that massively. Particularly like my lower back is more stiff sometimes. And it's like, say if I go to train, I'm like, oh, that's so, just because I'm spending so much time sat down that I never used to.
I think as well, especially during lockdown, people are getting more sleep, especially people within the fitness industry.
Yeah.
I think they're used to getting maybe like 5 or 6 hours a night and then kind of like napping in the day or whatever. Now we're all able to get our 8 or 9 hours. I think you're waking up and you are feeling a bit more stiff, and like you need to move a bit more because you've spent that a little bit longer sleeping. So.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing about flexibility I realized is the more flexible you become, the more you feel the tightness. So on a day that you're so tight, straight away that it's something that you haven't done.
Yeah, I find that it was the other day I was like about to train legs and I was like, oh, my hips are so tight. And Sarah was like, but they're not. And I was like, no, but they're my hips and I can feel that they're tight.
You definitely know. So what about Sarah? Is she more into the flexibility stuff? Are you pulling her into it, or what's happening?
Brian, I think you are. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I'm learning from you. I wouldn't say it's something that naturally just like clicks in my head. So I have to put a bit more effort in to kind of learn it. Especially even like warm-ups and cool downs, like my creativity with them is quite limited. So that's something I'm trying to work on at the moment. And even as basics as like when we're teaching classes, I'm trying to think of different things we can do, because obviously it does get boring. But yeah, I'm trying to learn more.
That's helping probably a lot though, isn't it? Is doing all the like warm-ups and things, and like when I go through drills, then it's like, oh. Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it there as well. It's like, for me personally, like I have a genuine interest in it, which is why I preach so much of it. It's why I do it so much. And I don't think you have that like real passion for it. Yeah. Probably, maybe yet. Like I feel like as time goes on, because I was the same when I first started as a PT in the industry, I didn't care, but it kind of just kept developing and developing. And where I was before, my first gym was like everyone was a lot older. So that was the main reason I actually learned about it, was because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had clients. So everyone was coming to me saying that they've got like bad knees, bad shoulders, bad hips. So I was like, right, well, I need to know how to work around that. And I need to know how to make their hips better so they can squat better. And it obviously that was then a snowball, and then it just to kind of where it is today. And I think when you look back if I look back at how long I've been in the industry for you, I didn't have that passion yet. So it's just something that develops, isn't it? So
yeah, I think in terms of like my own personal training, like like this time last year, like I probably never used to warm up.
True. Yeah.
Like my warm up was very, very quick, like very basic. And like now, like just if you would say to me, oh, like gyms are open, just go back squat, I'd be like, oh my God, no, that'd be horrible. So I think you just the more knowledge you learn in terms of the whole picture, the more you think about it, and I'm picking up things as I go and obviously understanding it more.
I remember when so this is ages ago, when we'd go to train together and I'd be like about to warm up, and then Sarah'd be like, oh, I'm just going to go on the cross trainer. I'm like, no, stay here and we'll go through a warm up. She's like, no, can't be arsed, I'm going on the cross trainer. Yeah. And that you don't do anymore, that you will be like, we'll warm up together. So that's what I mean. I think it is something that will keep evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes with time as well. See, I have days, and Jacob will tell you this as well. We have days where I think it's at least once a week, it used to be twice a week, just going to the gym, 3 hours, nothing but pure stretching, nothing else. Full body stretch from top of the head all the way down to your toes. Full body stretch. And the feeling you get from it, this is why I understand why people are so addicted to the physical side of yoga, because the feeling and the release you get from having a loose body. Like when I drive, I don't get, well, it's been like a year or 2 years now, I just don't get road rage whatsoever. So if someone cuts me off, you don't get road rage at all, because if you think about it, the position that we get the most amount of road rage is the position that we spend most of our time in, which is that seated position. Sat on a chair where your hip flexors are continuously stimulated and contracted, and then you wonder why you're getting angry at things. It's because and science has shown that most of the tension and the sort of mental problems that we have, especially for guys, is stored in the hips. But all our emotional problems and stuff are stored in the hips. You release that tension, and then you release the sort of the effects of that tension as well. So it's just one of those things. I just found it a no-brainer that when I was sat in my car, it's probably the most time I ever get stressed in life. Because normally when I'm sat, and you've seen it, when I'm sat at block, I normally come in and I sit cross-legged. And for me, that's a natural position. People say, is that not uncomfortable for you just to be sat like that? I'm like, well, it's just like you sat on the chair scratching your ear. It's so second nature for me. And like we're saying, once you get more into it, Sarah, the more you can't turn your back on it. You'll just keep doing it more and more, because you start to feel how the body wants to feel. So it's quite amazing.
I think you pick up things off other people as well. Like I've definitely learned so much just from being exposed and working like in a place like Block, because before I worked there, I was never into yoga or anything like that. I didn't get it. And speaking to so many different people now, it's so interesting, and I can definitely see how it complements you in different types of training as well. And I just think you learn so much off different people, and now I'm exposed to all these different types of people who are interested in different things. Like you pick up and learn off them, and I've learned so much in the past coming up to a year that I've worked there. So
let's talk about that then. Let's talk about the nutrition part. So what pushed you towards nutrition?
I've always just been really interested in food. Like I don't know why. I think it's probably just like a female thing. Like I quite like making things look nice and pretty, and then like just taking pictures of stuff. And then I don't know, I just think there's obviously a big stigma between like people going on diets, and they have to be so restrictive, and you really don't have to. And I the main point I try to get across on my page is how you can have a really flexible diet and still eat all the things that you want to eat, and still hit whatever goals you've set yourself, and still live a normal lifestyle. And like I think it's the same with you, how Alex is really interested in mobility and he'll spend time researching that. I'm the same with food, and I'll spend like every week when I'm planning what I'm going to eat for the week, or what content I'm putting out, I'll spend like a good hour, 2 hours like looking through recipes online and or like people I follow already, just to get inspiration, and then just trial and error. I just quite enjoy it. And again, like now we've started doing more online coaching, and we're actually dealing with clients who need that help and need that one-to-one support. It's so rewarding when you get to educate someone else that they can have a flexible diet. And like we base it off the fact that you tell us what you enjoy eating, and we'll help you with that, instead of just setting them like this is a meal plan, you need to eat it. We like to go off, well, you tell us what you eat, and then we'll just work from that, and obviously try and get them still eating the same things, but just being a bit more, just making changes like here and there. But yeah, I've just always been really interested in food. I don't know why.
I think your Instagram definitely shows that as well. It's the fact that when you first started off, I still remember, it was about obviously the workout and posting pretty pictures, but then as soon as you got into the food side of it, that's when you found, like Alex found his niche with the mobility. That's how you found your niche. And now everything is pretty much food. Like 90% of your content is all food. And you can tell by the likes, the amount of likes just gradually built up the more you start posting more about food, because I think that's one big area of fitness that's missing. You know, it's something that you would think would be a no-brainer, that you'd be talking about nutrition, but to put it in a way that is beneficial to most people, it's just something that more people are not doing on these social media platforms.
Well, it's 80-20, isn't it? Like, if you want to get in better shape, or you want to look after yourself, it's 80% diet. So I think a lot of people focus too much on, I need to go to the gym six times a week. I need to train for an hour every day. And in fact, like, it's mainly your diet, and doesn't have to be drastic changes. Like, a lot of people can continue eating the same things that they are. It's just the little changes or substitutes that you need to make them aware of. And I think because I'm so interested in finding these substitutes, or just giving people tips, then like it makes it easier for someone else who obviously needs that help.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said as well, didn't I, that like I knew a weakness of mine was providing people with help in terms of recipes and in terms of ideas, because if I ever gave someone an idea, it was so bland and boring, because I'm like, if Sarah wasn't making meals for me, I would literally just eat the same thing every single day. It would have like barely any flavor. It would be like, does what it says in the tin, and it wouldn't bother me. Like, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. But so like, I always knew that was a part of like what I was doing in PT, that with my clients, I was like, I wish I could do more help with that and get inspiration with food recipes, which is why it's like hilarious with you, like, look at all this.
I think what I try and like tell people as well is you don't have to be a gourmet chef to do it either. Like, my cooking skills still have a lot of like improvements to be made, and everything's trial and error, but it's just being a bit more proactive and a bit more creative with it, and just showing a bit more interest in, because I think if someone's willing to spend so much time in going to the gym and focusing on the workouts and things, you need to as well focus your time on what you're eating, because that's just as big a part of the whole process. So yeah.
Yes, so it's interesting we're talking about food, because Craig and I just finished a conversation about food and fasting, and we were talking about mainly the Ayurvedic side, so the more sort of holistic sort of foods, and it's interesting that, Alex, you said that you can just eat the same food over and over and over again, even if it might be bland. There is a sort of Ayurvedic aspect to that. So that's based on not focusing your attention on the way the food tastes, but in terms of the nutritional value it gives you. So you can pretty much put whatever you need for your daily calories in a plate and keep consuming that over and over again. And it's because your attention is more not about the flavor, but more about the nutritional side of it. Yeah. I think some people are not like that. Some people need some aspect of flavor. I guess that's where Sarah comes in.
Yeah. Well, your mum always used to say you eat for purpose rather than taste.
But I love food, don't I? Like, I'm obsessed with food and I love it so much, but like,
I think
I don't know, when it comes to like just my daily food, I wouldn't be bothered.
Yeah. It's just, again, I find with mine, as I don't know if Sarah knows, but I'm really picky with all my food. You know, I rarely eat out for that reason. And I always used to think that was a detriment. And I remember all the girls I dated back then were just like, well, one of the reasons we can't date you is you don't eat onion and garlic, you don't drink, you don't eat meat or fish or anything. So like, what the hell do you eat? And I was like, well, you have a completely different world. When like you guys knew, and we'll talk about it, when you did your veganuary, you realize that there's a completely different world out there, a different sort of market to explore, especially since our market's quite new. In the last 10 years, it's just come about. So if you eliminate one aspect of your food, and I guess it comes into the realms of fasting on certain type of food. So for you guys, meat was a huge part of your lifestyle. Since you were kids, you eat meat. But as soon as you fast on that aspect, you eliminate that one food, you have to really think outside the box.
Yeah, it just makes you a bit more proactive. Like, I think the first few days of us doing Veganuary, I think we both were thinking we're never going to be able to finish this, because what are we going to replace certain foods with? But yeah, like you just start looking for more, and by the end of it, like, yeah, I was quite happy to go back to, I think especially for me, dairy. But we could have carried it on. And there's still things now. Like we do eat vegan meals still. There are some staples that we obviously made during Veganuary, and we've carried on because we like them. And again, like snacks and things, like you're exposed to things that you've never even thought of before, so you just keep them in your diet. And it's not as hard as people think.
I think people are missing a trick when you are, and again, I'm not trying to offend people, but I probably will. I think you're missing a trick when if you're deciding to become vegan and then you don't look into Indian food. I just think you're missing a massive trick, because the thing is, we've had like 5,000 years of traditions of not consuming meat, fish or eggs. So if you're going to decide to become vegan, look at that aspect, so you're not having to eat just raw food all the time. You can actually cook food. So many different spices that most people have never exposed to, because they never look at those realms, or they stick to the traditional curry that you find down the chippy that you find down the road from you. So it's moving away from that mindset and just exploring other aspects of people's cultures and food in general. And I think the more you travel as well, the more you're exposed to these kind of things.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. We definitely found our like favorite meals during Veganuary were the like curry dishes. And you start thinking like, oh, they're all going to be the same, but they're really not. They were definitely my favorite thing.
But again, you look at it and it's like, if I would have done Veganuary on my own, I would have, two things would have either happened. I'd have just packed it in, or I would have done literally my normal diet, and I would have hated, like, it was all right, but if I'd have made every meal myself, my head would have fallen off, because I would have literally just been eating such boring meals all the time. Like you were the one that were like, oh, look, I've just found these because they're good for protein. And I was like, oh, what? I'd have probably just had like vegan protein all day, every day. And that would have been my diet.
Vegan sausages.
Yeah, vegan sausage. On that vegan bacon is not, that's weird.
So Sarah, did you make that dal? Because you were saying, you were looking for ingredients to make dal.
Yeah, I made a few dals. I didn't do the one with the mustard seeds that you said about, because I couldn't actually find any mustard seeds. But I think if I looked hard enough, I probably would have found them. But yeah, dal was really good actually. Red split lentils are really good. We've made quite a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah, so that was the one you used.
Yeah. But they're
give me 2 seconds.
Really
my camera's
easy.
Acting funny.
Oh.
1 second, buttons. Okay, so yeah, we were just talking about dal. Now, so red split lentils are just one type of dal, and it's one that actually I try and avoid. I don't know why we never really ate it when we were kids, so I've tried it out, but I just think if you tried the sort of the chickpea dal, so imagine a chickpea split in half, that dal is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I've not tried that. We've got we've had green lentils as well, but they don't split.
Yeah, the ones that sprout.
Yeah, they were good.
And do you know,
I literally
has no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, we'll have to come back into mobility for Alex. So with that, we have this thing that really brings out the flavor, and you would think, why the hell would you put that in your dal? But we put this thing called jaggery, and it's basically sugar cane, and it's been extracted and then it's dried out, and it becomes this crystallized form. And it has a very sweet, sour taste to it. So the dal that you make, what usually happens is you want to kind of strike a good balance between the sweet side of the dal and the sour side of the dal. And this item does that. and it just really enhances the taste and brings out all the flavors. But yeah, it's something I make for my friends when I'm making the dal. And yeah, it's incredible how most people have never come across any of these stuff before.
I think that's the same with me though.
Yeah.
Like spices and things, like I definitely looked at more when I did veganuary. But before that, it was very basic. So yeah, it's just exposure to trying different things. I think you have to be willing to try stuff. I mean, I've never been, I don't think you have been ever been a fussy eater. So I think like if you're willing to try stuff, you'll definitely find stuff that you like.
Yeah. Also, but I think the fussiness comes, defending myself, the fussiness comes from what your body likes and doesn't like. So I can't have things that are too sweet or too sour. I absolutely hate vinegar. The only time I use vinegar is for my hair. When I dilute it in water, I use it for my hair. But apart from that, just that weird tangy taste. It's not the fact that I can't consume it, but my taste bud doesn't like it, and my belly will throw it up straight away. So anything that has a weird queasy taste, like I can't have cottage cheese, but like back when I used to consume cheese, I couldn't have cottage cheese, I couldn't have goat's cheese because it literally smelled like a goat. So stuff like that, and you have your weird little things where certain things put you off. And I'm really bad with food like that. So do you know when you have cereal, especially when you have Frosties or cornflakes, if it goes soggy, that's a no-go zone for me at all. Yeah.
You're eating it too slow. You have to just eat it fast.
I don't think I've ever experienced soggy Frosties.
Have you not? I think what I do is I have it in a separate bowl. So I have the Frosted, obviously the cereal in one bowl and the milk in the other bowl, just to separate the two and make sure that I can take my time consuming it.
That is such an extra way of eating cereal.
See, this is the other thing that Craig and I talked about. We live in a society where we're so obsessed with doing things multitasking. We want to do multiple things at the same time. We want to minimize the things that are the bare essentials. So, like you said at the start, the trainers these days with the lockdown are now have the ability to rest for 8 hours now, sleep for the full 8 hours. Whereas it's just get as minimal sleep as possible. As long as you are surviving off it, just go out there and just do stuff. And I think that lifestyle, obviously, it has a consequence, and you have to pay for it afterwards. So I said to Craig, there's this concept called just unitasking or single tasking, where you focus on one thing and you just focus on that and nothing else. So funnily enough, when people say I can't meditate, you can just sit there and consume one food and not have to read something or watch TV. You start meditating because you're just consuming that food and you're thinking about the taste of the food. So it's getting into the habit of doing things and focusing on one thing at a time as opposed to just piling it all together.
Yeah, I think especially like if you're active on social media or like you have content that you're planning and stuff, like I definitely notice it where I pick up my phone and think, what am I picking my phone up for? Put it down. Like you don't need it. Or like you'll be sat watching the TV and you'll have your phone, and it's like you don't actually need all these different methods of distraction. And so I think that ties into being able to switch off as well. Like if you've got too many things going on, you need to take a step back and think about what can I start eliminating to give my brain a bit of a break.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever wondered why your mother's cooking is better than going outside for food? Why is it that everyone loves that?
Yeah.
Is it just familiarity? Because you're like, as a kid, it's...
Well, it could also be other things, and I think there's also evidence to suggest it's the love that your mother puts towards the food. It's the actual effort. Like you probably love Sarah's food compared to, like you mentioned, the pancakes, where you took it to Pure Gym and the trainers didn't believe that the pancakes you bought were made by Sarah. So it's that scenario with the love and the effort Sarah puts towards making food. It's because she has a passion for it, and that's why the taste is much better. Whereas if you go out there and you pay good money for food, but then it still doesn't have that same quality as your mother's cooking or your girlfriend's cooking. It's for that reason.
Yeah, I totally agree. Not just because it's relatable to me, but I totally agree. Like, so I think we were talking about this the other day. Like I quite like cooking, obviously, and meal prep for me is it's convenience if I need to take food outside with me. But I do quite like just spending time, like if it's 20-30 minutes just cooking and then eating, because you have more of a like satisfaction if you've spent time making something. And like I get a bit of satisfaction saying I've made that and I'm going to give it to you, and if you like it, then it does give you satisfaction.
I get satisfaction too.
Rather than just buying it, or like meal prep is great convenience if you need to take it to work or whatever, but you definitely don't get as much satisfaction from eating something out of a Tupperware box than you do off a plate because you just made it.
Yeah, definitely.
And, yeah.
I think the only thing a guy can relate to that is when you build something and then you destroy it, you know. And people think, why would you spend all that effort building it and then just completely annihilate it? And it's because the satisfaction is building it, but also satisfaction is destroying it, you know.
I used to do that with Lego as a kid. I used to love building stuff with my Lego, destroying it, and then trying to build it without the instruction book.
Yeah.
And then it was even cooler. And then you destroy it again, and you're like, right, next.
You do that with flat pack furniture as well.
Yeah, I love building flat pack furniture without looking at instructions. I'm like, I don't need you.
Yeah, there's some sort of cathartic response you get from that kind of stuff. And I've got the same thing, and this is quite geeky, but I never was a console gamer when I used to play games. I used to build computers and then just, you know, play games that way. People think, why the hell do you want to spend all the effort trying to build it and then play it? It's like, well, there's some sort of satisfaction from creating things. And I think women can relate to that more with cooking, and guys can relate to that with items and things like, you know, buildings and Lego and stuff. You want to build it, it's the satisfaction that you get from building it, but at the same time, it's the fact that by the end of it, it's the fact that you made it is nothing compared to you getting a chance to remake it again. You destroy it and you remake it again. So yeah, and people find that's pointless. You know, people think that you've just spent all that effort and time doing it. And it's like when you paint something. I used to paint with soft pastels when I was like 8 years ago. And I used to paint it, and then I used to get rid of my paintings, give it to someone else. And people are like, why the hell are you doing that? Why are you keeping all your paintings? And it's because, for me, you see the flaws in that as well. You see all the moments in that painting where you were complacent. But at the same time, it's the fact that you've done it now. The service was actually, the joy was building it, and now getting rid of it, it's just, you know, it means nothing to you.
Mm. You could tie that into eating as well. Like you make a meal and you just eat it and it's gone.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right, so back into mobility now. The stuff that Alex and I are passionate about. So what are your current mobility goals, if you have any, or just kind of floating?
It's massively still to do the splits.
Okay.
It's getting
Front splits
closer
or
and
side?
closer. Both, to be honest. Side, I'm not too far off. Front is obviously further off than, but it's getting there. It's just it's as you said right from the off, it's like it takes so much longer than, like, say if someone came to me wanting to lose fat, I'd be like, right, well, we can do that pretty fast. But someone like, for example, I have one client where all we do is mobility. Like all we've ever done is mobility, and like I've had him now for at least a year. And when he came to me, he couldn't even like touch his knees, like that low of a, like tight of a hamstring. And like he used to say that he has to get his wife to tie shoes. And I remember when he first told me that like his wife, like he could tie his own shoes and he can reach and touch his toes. But like that wasn't a 5-minute process. Like that took a long time to get to that. And we've still got a very, very long way to go till he's bloody in the Olympics. So like we've still got so much to do. And I think that's what I mean. Like with me doing the splits, like I've wanted to do that for so long, and it's getting closer, but you just got to keep getting closer and closer.
Yeah, definitely. So let's touch on that point then. So this, I think, is also a reflection of how society is going. Everything has to be immediate. Results have to be immediate. That's why more people are selling programs that give you, 6 weeks, you'll get this body, 12 weeks, etc. It's because people want immediate results. But when it comes to mobility, the body will only adapt when it wants to adapt, when there's a need for it to adapt. And yeah, funny that you mentioned the client thing. I've got a client who's a good friend of mine, and he's been with me for a year now as well. Pure mobility. Originally, it started off with, I just want the basic stuff. I want to look good, lift heavy, etc. But then I slowly kind of brought him to my area, which is flexibility. And he started to realize that his body is so, like, it's the body of a 60-year-old man, 70-year-old man. And I said to him, look, that's what the problem is. The reason why you're having degeneration in your knee is because you are doing things that your body doesn't want you to do. Your body wants to be moving around, and you're sat in your office, working. Yeah, it's great. You're making a lot of money out of it, but, by the end of it, you'll be in a wheelchair. You'll be spending all that money on trying to sort your problems out. So you need to start making those changes now. And I remember a few months ago, the studio that I'm in right now, there was a trainer. He works in Pure Gym, but he used to work in the Market Street Pure Gym. Funnily enough, his name is Pure. And hopefully he's not watching this podcast. But yeah, so he came to me and he saw that I worked on like flexibility and mobility, and I was showing him the pancake and stuff. And he said, look, I really want to get the splits. And I said, which splits? That the front split, the side split? He said, the side split. And he goes, how long do you think it's going to take me? I said, well, I'm not going to give you any bullshit. I'm going to give you straight up. I said, how old are you, first of all? And he said, 35 or 37. I said, okay, and what's your current flexibility and what's your daily lifestyle? He goes, well, I do a lot of martial arts and this is my current flexibility. I said, no offense, it's going to take you at least minimum, if you're doing everything well and you don't get injured, at least 3 years. But for you to get where you want to get to, you're looking at least 5 years, 5 to 7 years. And he was like,
and a bit, it was like,
yeah. And it was like, I said, that's how it is. And unfortunately, other people, you might get other people that will sell you programs that will reduce that time. But I guarantee you right now, hands down, you will get injuries. You'll get all the injuries that people get at gymnastics doing all these flexibility stuff. You're going to get all the injuries because you're trying to get results a lot quicker than your body is allowing you. The stuff I've learned about mobility is actually a large portion of mobility isn't in the body, it's in the mind. So you have these barriers in place, you have a mind map of what you can and can't do. So for example, if I get you guys to do a backflip, and you don't have that experience in you, a backflip is something that's terrifying, thing to do. First of all, it's unknown to go backwards that way. And secondly, you might have had a previous traumatic experience from it. So now you've already got that in your memory saying that doing this will equate to this. So if I say to you guys, you go to a kids gymnastics class and they tell you to do a middle split, a lot of those kids, because a lot of those kids haven't been exposed to what a middle split is, even a beginner gymnastics class, because they haven't been exposed to that. For them, a middle split doesn't mean anything. There's nothing in their mind that's saying middle split equates to this amount of pain. So they'll go easily into it. And even the kids that are struggling with it, they'll get a lot further than us. And people will say, well, because the kids, they have more mobile muscles, etc. Yeah, that's true to a certain degree, but it's the fact that they don't have that response condition in them. Whereas for us, if someone says do a middle split, you automatically feel what that feels like. You almost think about what that feels like.
Yeah, you go tight already.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's known as the apprehension reflex. So we have this thing in our body that's in our mind, but it's triggered in the body, where if I tell you to do something and you know you can't do it, you already have that fear of doing that kicking in. So that stops you from doing the middle split. And all this stuff I kind of learned about, and they did studies on people under general anesthetics. So if you have someone who's been put under, put under the drip or under general anesthetics, you can bend them in any position you want. Doesn't matter what their mobility was like previously, you can bend them however you want. So that's why there's cases where operating nurses that are learning, they go into a theater and end up breaking a person's rib, because in that position, the person is really mobile because the consciousness is taken away. But as soon as you bring that consciousness back, all those habits that had previously come back.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so this is the side of mobility people don't really know about, and it's because it's usually been kept a secret for the circus industry. The circus secrets don't and it's unfortunate. You would think that more people that know about this stuff would be coming out and saying, oh, look at this and look at that. And that's why PNF has become a huge thing in the last 10 years. More people invested time in PNF, but PNF was a trick that the circus performers used to use to gain that extra range. So yeah, so that's my take on the mobility stuff, and I've just learned a lot. So for you to get your middle split, the way to go about it, and one thing I've learned is to get good at the middle split or to get good at a side split, you can't just be doing the middle split at the side split. You have to work on the areas that are restricting you in those regions. So for me, I think the hip flexor muscles and the outer hamstrings were my main restrictions. But as soon as you open those up, then you get way more depth than you originally thought.
Yeah, see, I would say my like my hip mobility won't be the thing that's restricting me. It's my hamstrings. Like stuff like say if I do a forward fold,
Yeah.
I can get there over a long time. Like I did a pancake the other day and I was like, oh my God, look at that. And I could get, like, I was almost chest to floor. So, but like, I don't feel the tightness in my hips. I feel it in my hamstrings restrict. Like I can feel my like toes start coming in and my knees start to like bend and I can tell that's because my hamstrings are just so tight. But as you said, bang on, it's not like I don't just spend all day, every day, just sat in the splits. It's a case of working on everything that's going to evolve around that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the age that you guys are at right now, it's now that people need to start doing it. You know, people say, can I get middle splits when I'm like 60 years old? Well, you're going to struggle. You'll get close, but you'll probably struggle. But if you've got a background where you've done nothing at all and then you want to get these goals, you're probably not looking, it's going to take you a lot longer. And it's just accepting that. And then people will say, oh, you're just doing that. You're saying that because you want to milk me for, you know, you want me to be your client. You want to milk me. No, just telling you the truth. You go to someone else who'll get you quicker results, but you'll have to suffer the consequences. And there are a lot of situations where I've been listening to a lot of injury podcasts and injury podcasts done by ex-gymnasts, ex-circus performers. And they'll tell you, once they get an injury, so let's say you tear your muscle in your hamstring, your upper hamstring, and that's causing you a hindrance, what you realize is once you overcome that injury, that tear in your hamstring will actually benefit you. It will allow you to get into that restricted position that you were originally suffering before, because you've got tension that's built up and you've released that tension somehow. So you now, you've got an advantage there, but then that means that you've gone through the long process of tearing it, which means if you want the same result on the other side, you'll have to end up tearing that as well. You've got situations where circus performers will purposely tear a muscle so they get extra range. And you just think that is not the healthy way of doing it. So if you want a middle split in 3 years' time, you do it that way. You'll have to see. And I was explaining it to this guy. I was like, this is how it's going to be. And he wasn't listening to it. I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm not the person you want to come to there. You're going to go to someone else.
You better be straight with them from the off, though, as well.
Yeah.
And if they think they know better, then leave them be. They won't get the results. So
I think it's the big thing as well. You touched on age, and that was the big thing for me. Like where I was before, as I said, like my first gym I was experiencing firsthand these people that couldn't move well, and I was experiencing these people that are just really tight, and people that are sort of 50, 60, 70 that thinking it's going to be it's so much harder to undo that. And I was taking that as like, I don't want to let myself get to that. And then I was using it obviously on myself and trying things. And then it was using it on clients and I was using it to myself, be like, I want to do everything I can over the next 40, 50 years to make sure that when I'm their age, I'm still moving well. And I'll still be able to not like get injured by pulling my hamstring because I was tying my shoelaces, or little things like that we don't want to get injured by. And it was just experiencing it completely firsthand really just opened my eyes to it. And you touched on it as well when you said about that guy that you do mobility with, and it was the same with the guy that I do with. He came to me for like wanting to just be a bit fitter, be a bit loose and fat, and straight away in the consultation in my movement screening, I was like, no, hang on, wait a minute, like I was like, mate, that can go to the side, and this has been to the side for over a year, and it's been like, no, let's focus on making you move in the best possible way for your body. And it's like pushing those boundaries to a point where you tear. And I think so many people, as you said, like when you look at these people on Instagram and posting stuff, you've almost got to be mobile to. No, you don't have to, but people think you have to post about it because then it looks impressive. But in reality, that's what then makes people think like, well, there's no point doing that because I can't do that. But it's all then about pushing in like I say to people, that their active range. And it's the same obviously when you're doing a strength movement like a squat. It's always working in your active range and moving to that range of motion. And it's the same with mobility. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're looking at someone who can do the splits and you're like, well, there's no point me doing that because I can't. It's like, but try and then try doing like different variations and different things that's good for your body and feels good for you. And as you said, it's trial and error. Like not one exercise will feel great on you that it does someone else. So it's about finding what ones work well for you and what opens up more joints better and more muscles more than it does another one. And I think that's too many people just straight away neglect it because they can't do the split. So they're like, well, there's no point. And they probably just think he can just do that. And it's like, yeah, but there's actually a ridiculously long process to get to that. And it's like, as you said with the kids, they're like, oh, it's a kid, it's mobile, it can do that. And it's like, yeah, but there's still things behind it. And then you look at people who continue doing that all of their lives. It's like, but they work on it so much. Someone doesn't just walk up and just go, bang, and like pop the splits. It's just not going to happen. That's how you'll be able to rip your hamstrings and I suppose then do the splits. But like, it's just not how it works.
I think this is where the industry is moving toward. I really do. I think this is the awareness now is shifting from, oh, look, I look great, but I can't move for shit, to, okay, now let's focus on the mobility side of it. Like, you'll be honest with yourself, you know that as well. Like, if you look at your pictures, the ones you're posting, yeah, you look great, but you're not like shredded like compared to most of the bodybuilders. And it's because you're not looking for that. You're not chasing that aspect of that goal. And it's fine if you're chasing that, but then understand that you have to accept the consequences of chasing that aspect. One of the reasons why a lot of people look lean, people say, oh, low body fat, yeah, that's great. You can reduce your body fat intake. But at the same time, it's the amount of tension you have in the muscle fibers. So if you're someone that's really tight, so I've trained with climbers. I've climbed with a lot of these climbers that are absolutely lean and jacked, but they are rounded as fuck. Like, these kids are rounded like this. And you think, when they get to my age, they're going to be screwed really badly. And it's because their muscles are so tight. They're so lean. You can see all their muscles. But because they have so much tension in the muscle, the muscle is not allowed to relax. So you can't bring that natural posture back.
That's ruthless. I didn't know about that especially with climbers. I thought there'd be, because of the range you have to go through, I thought you'd all be like, everyone would just be pretty good posture. Yeah.
No, I think it's because you are, especially when you're working an overhang, so things that are tilting towards you, you're literally like that, hunched on the wall.
Oh, yeah, I suppose you're like constantly in like a bit of a hollow, aren't you? Like trying to, I suppose that's your.
So that's why they're really thick right across the muscles at the back, but the front, the chest is literally just collapsed, and it's really
like
bad.
When you see like gym bros who all they do is train chest and they will walk around like this, and it's like, mate, it's because you've never done a pull exercise in your life. And it's like, you are having such a bad impact on your body, but you've got no idea.
Yeah. And I think that's where we should probably move the conversation towards, how do you bring that awareness? How do you bring the awareness to your client that doesn't know that the fact that he can't touch his toes is a big problem?
It's hard. I think it is hard because you'll get some people who literally are like, but I just want to lose weight and I want to look good. And I think it part boils down to actually finding probably potentially a client that's going to work well with you. And I think that's why it's always important to develop your niche of people that you want to work with. And like something I always get across to clients straight away, it's when they say like, look, I want to lose fat, I want to do this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But first of all, we need to establish some relationships that you might not have ever had before. So it's like, we will get you losing fat and that will happen. But like, to go into it with like calories, it's like, look, let's find a nice, healthy relationship now with food. And let's find a healthy relationship with enjoying the gym and moving. And I think that's just what I try to get across to people right from the off is just focus on it and then the rest will come. And it can be hard sometimes to get that kind of across to people, but then I think it's important so I'll do like movement screenings with things, and probably straight away people will see, because of the feedback then I give them of like, oh, actually, well, the ankle was doing this, and obviously it's a cross chain, isn't it? So it's like the ankle's going out of it, and then the knee goes, and then the hip goes. And I think then when you start highlighting that to people, it straight away kind of triggers like, oh my God, I never really realized that. Or you say to someone, they're like, my knee really hurts. And you're like, do you have tight hamstrings? They're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, okay, well, we probably need to do that. And then I was like, do you have a bad back as well? And they're like, yeah, my back's always really bad. And I'm like, and that's all. And then I think just by kind of quickly just developing stuff with people, they very, very quickly realize like, oh, this is actually maybe more important than I think. So as I said, I think it boils down to potentially finding someone that works well for you. But it's just a case of just trying to get that point across them straight away, and not letting them divert away from it. And you look at these people who are like bodybuilding coaches, and that is their niche. They're not going to be the people that get someone who isn't mobile at all and wants to lose weight, but they'll do that, but then they won't focus on the abilities. That person will never have that. And I think then the difference is when you have someone like us who's going to preach it right from the off, and they've potentially never had a coach that's talked about it, it will already start sparking things because you're doing something different. Like going back to that movement screening, like I've had clients who have had a coach in the past, like, no one's ever done this to me before. And I'm like, yeah, but that's because that's what I care about more than anything. And this is why it's so important to do right from the off. It's like, if I don't know how you're moving, and if I don't know what muscles in your body are tight, which are affecting other places, we're not going to be able to get you to be able to do a squat I like saying, like, in a sexy way. Like when you watch someone doing a lift that is just flawless, it's so nice to watch. But that will boil down to because they focus on their mobility and they work on that before and after and in between. And people that can squat well don't just do it. It's the same with it's exactly the same with the splits. And people will see this amazing split and be like, oh, I wish I could do the splits. Oh, well, and then carry on around their day. Oh, I wish I could squat with my ass to the floor. And then carry around their day. And it's like, there's so much that goes around being able to do that. And it's just too overlooked.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that idea of just, there's two types of people in this world. There's people that, this is why sport is a big thing, because we like to appreciate people that excel in that industry. But there are people that will look at the sport and think, wow, that amazing feat that he's doing or she's doing, it's amazing, but I just want to sit here and watch it comfortably. And then you'll get the other people who say, oh, that amazing feat that person's doing, I want to experience a tiny bit of that. And it's something that Craig and I mentioned in our previous podcast. So I got into free soloing. And again, I'm not like a professional, I think, but so free soloing is basically climbing without a heart without the rope attached to you. So you are in the purest element. So if you fall, mine was only 25 foot compared to Alex Honnold's 3,000 feet. But if I fall, I'm going to obviously end up breaking a leg or something. So it's just developing that mindset of feeling like, okay, I've seen this person do it, and it terrifies the shit out of me because I don't sweat. My palms never get sweaty when I climb, but when I watch him talking about free soloing, I get so nervous. And then to go out there and do it yourself, you're putting yourself in that element to realize, I want to experience maybe even a fraction of what he's experiencing when he's doing this. And I think when it comes back to mobility and even nutrition, I think the fact that people will look on Instagram and on social media and just think, I really want that body, or I want that, middle split, etc. You have to start. It's basic stuff. You have to start from step one, which is understanding how they got there, which is start making those baby steps. Work towards researching exercises, work towards researching recipes that are beneficial to you, as opposed to going purely for the things that taste great, or indulging in foods. Work towards those things, and then it will build up by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like James Smith, he's spoken about before how, like, say if you're driving in a beeped up, like, horrible car and you're at traffic lights and a Ferrari pulls up next to you, you don't look at that Ferrari and go, oh God, like, look at me in my rubbish car, and then go home and cry yourself about it. You just go, oh, that's quite nice. And then you just carry on. Like, but you don't get so depressed and so worked up about it. Yet people do that on Instagram, and they look at someone and they go, I wish I looked like that. And then it just really bothers them and then creates such a negativity around it. And it's like, why? Because as you said, you're comparing where you are and trying to at stage one to someone who's been doing it for years and years and years and years. And that's the process that someone has to go through.
Yeah, definitely. So let's tie this in then. In regards to flexibility, I have a strong feeling that if you can, and this brings in nutrition as well, if you can consume foods that obviously don't hinder the problems in the body, so foods that are too acidic, I always say, obviously you guys are big on this, but I feel like if you can restrict your meat intake, foods that cause dissonance in the body, try and minimize that, and that way you have a better frame of mind to be able to do these movements. That's why yoga is such a big thing in the East, and especially now in the West. It's because yoga gives you that platform to ease the conscience itself. So to get into a meditative state, you have to have a body that allows you to do that. It almost allows it to manifest itself in the environment. So how do we tie in nutrition with flexibility or mobility?
I think it's just eating the foods, obviously, that benefit you. And like, again, it's down to the performance element, whatever your goal is. But if you're looking for the best performance out of yourself, you've got to be fueling your body with the foods that you need. And again, like, different food groups are going to give you different like energy and things like that. So I think it's just educating people and getting to understand yourself as an individual, what foods benefit you. And I've definitely learned that coming from, say, like 4 or 5 years ago, before I started like properly going to the gym and things. Like my diet was awful. Like, I used to eat biscuits, sweets,
Skittles
all the time. Like, I still eat them now, but obviously eat them in more of moderation. But my mindset, my fatigue, everything was totally different because I wasn't fueling my body with any sort of food that
like you used to nap all the time.
Yeah,
just
like,
always napping. And it was like, what are you napping for?
I'm
tired. And you're like, what? How?
Yeah, but I wasn't tired because I wasn't getting enough sleep. Back then I used to have more sleep than I have now, but it's because I was eating all the wrong foods.
Yeah, you were always someone that were like, I need 9 hours. I was like, you do not need 9 hours sleep, you freak. It was like 9 hours and then napping as well. I was like, you need to sort your life out.
But it's purely down to the foods that I was eating, just not giving me the fuel that I needed.
So it's all like the mindfulness as well, isn't it? Like that thing of if you do have like a big bowl of salad with loads of veg and loads of greenery, you do feel good, and it does like help this sort of nice feeling in your body. Whereas you compare it to when you have like a big pizza or something like that, and you just feel rubbish after it.
It's difference between the mind and the stomach as well, because you think, I feel really good in the stomach, because you obviously feel full, but in terms of actually in your mind, it's a whole different ball game. And what like we've, especially at the moment when we've been taking on new clients, I've been saying to them about their diet, say, stick to what we've talked about for 7 days, and I promise you it'll click in your head. That you only need to do something for that short period of time for it to all click. And I think a lot of people, I was guilty of it, you do things for maybe 2 or 3 days and think, I can't be bothered anymore. But you need to stick at it for just that little bit longer, and it does make a massive difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think so. We're tying in with what you're saying with foods affecting how the mind is thinking. So the biggest example is alcohol, right? People in the fitness industry, you would think there'll be people with minimal alcohol consumption, but it's quite the opposite. The amount of alcohol these people drink is incredible. And you just wonder, you're telling people, and again, I'm not putting anyone down, but you're telling people, you're trying to advise people on living a more healthy lifestyle, but you're doing the opposite. And I feel like that culture only comes about because you are creating this false image that you look good. So with the people that are aesthetically driven, a large portion of them are probably, and again, I'm not trying to generalize anything, but a good portion of them go out there partying and they drink a lot, and not really look at the moderation. And they go with the outlook that I'll just be able to burn whatever I'm consuming. But then what's the effect on your mind? How is it changing mindset-wise? So how do you get a client to move away from that mindset of, I want to train so I can continue consuming as much as possible?
I think it's more portion sizes and having a bit more control. Like, because we would never say to a client, you can't have drinks. You can't drink anymore.
It's restriction, isn't it?
I think it's more getting them to realise, okay, so if you go out this weekend and have a lot to drink, really think about how you feel the next day and what your mindset's like towards all these new goals that you've now got set for yourself. Because they'll soon realise that everything's going to be a lot harder for them if they do go out and do have a drink.
It's funny how much of a knock-on effect it is, though, isn't it? By going and drinking, and at the end they spent like just blowing out all your calories, but there's so much more in terms of obviously all the toxins you're putting in your body. You wake up the next day and then you just spend a day of being lazy. You spend a day of eating absolute rubbish, and you feel it, it doesn't matter how much sleep you get on after drinking, you will wake up tired. And it's just by that little factor of your potential week. Like some people, it's like they live for that weekend and they live for that sort of night out and getting trashed. And it's like, and then it's kind of like repairing their body over the next 3-4 days to then do it all over again. And it's just this constant negative cycle. And I think, I don't want to say it too much, because I don't want to generalize it, but like when you look at things like depression and people having sort of like that negative mindset, a lot of it will be related to people who just drink too much and people who potentially take too much drugs. And it's all then this cycle when you completely flip that on your head, and people who eat well and get like nice vitamins and minerals, and then people who train a lot and look after themselves, there is a correlation between those people. And it just shows the impact that like what something so little can have on the rest of like not just the week, the months, the years of, and just like someone's life.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it really goes into that mindfulness side, and it is a large portion of it is based on nutrition. If you are going to do that, it's basically abuse. At the end of the day, it's all abuse. If you decide to abuse your body, you're still abusing your body. If you decide to abuse your mind, you still abuse your mind. So the types of food you consume, the biggest poison that we have today, it's not alcohol and it's not smoking or drugs. The biggest poison we have is sugar. The amount of sugar people are consuming is absolutely horrendous, isn't it? And people just don't see that. They'll just say, I'm getting these problems in my heart, I'm getting these problems in my body, but I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm not smoking, I'm not doing anything too crazy. But then you ask them, where's your food? Like, where's the majority of your food coming from? I'm consuming foods that are packaged quite a bit, or I'm consuming foods that are high in salt and sugar. It's just like, that's what the problem is. How do you not see that as an issue?
Mm-hmm. And it's the same, ties in with your energy levels as well. Obviously, if you're eating a high sugar diet, you're spiking your glycogen levels, and people don't realize that. And obviously that's what's going to make you feel tired, feel like have a negative mindset, because you do feel tired. And I think, just getting that healthy balance definitely.
Well, it's like if someone says like, whenever I eat, I always need like a nap or something, and it's like, well, you need to seriously look at what meal you've just eaten then, because you shouldn't feel tired after eating. You should almost feel the opposite. Mm-hmm. So, and I think as well, like it's water as well. Not enough people. Massively, like the general population just do not drink enough water. Mm-hmm.
Or they also drink water that's got flavors in it, I can't drink water because who likes the taste of water? I'm like, you don't like the taste of life then? You don't like water? How does that even make sense? I don't like the taste of water. It's a big problem. And it's a big problem in kids as well. And I don't really blame the kids, because it's the way the kids have been brought up. You've got to bring your kids up in a way that, and I know a friend of mine who has never given his kid any chocolate whatsoever. So obviously that is not good as well. But at the same time, he feels as though when the child is old enough, he can make up his own mind what he wants to play, what he doesn't. So, and I think that's a really healthy way of looking at it. And people will say, you're stopping that child from being a child. Well, yeah, you might be doing that, but you're stopping that child from being a traditional child. But what you'll do in the long term is create a child that really understands his body more. And I don't think people see that. They just see, you're abusing a child by not allowing the child to do whatever he wants. I just think people just want things in black and white these days. They don't want the area of grey that most of us all exist in. So what about fasting? So what's your take on fasting for both of you guys?
It's all down to the individual. I think I don't do long periods of fasting, but I find it does help if I'm trying to maybe be a little bit more restrictive. Say, for example, if I've been out on the weekend, or I know I just want to try and cut things down a little bit. Definitely eating breakfast later and then having your last meal a little bit earlier definitely does help, but just by shortening that eating window definitely does make you feel a little bit, it makes you feel more satisfied during the period of eating. But I think it's all down to the individual and how it can fit into your lifestyle as well. Some people, it's obviously just not very convenient for them, but I personally find it does help a bit.
Yes, yeah, like I find it depends what I'm doing in terms of training.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't train fasted. I just can't do it. I just don't have the strength. I don't have the energy, and I don't have the focus. But I find when I'm working and I'm on the gym floor, I can easily sort of not eat. I don't fast in terms of like to the proper, like as in not fasting until sort of like, yeah, like 5 o'clock. And when I say like I might fast, it will be till like midday, but I can easily do that. And I feel so much better doing that than say if I was to wake up and have breakfast. I would then feel hungry halfway through the morning, and then I'd start like slacking off again. And I think then it boils back to that kind of like the spike, and by not eating and delaying that sort of eating window helps me massively on the gym floor. As I said, like I'll do that when I work, and I almost function quite well off it. But if say I was to go straight in and train, I have to have a meal then before I actually come and train. And in terms of, you said as well, like I haven't like been in a deficit for I don't even know how long, but like if I was going down that route, and when I did used to do that, it was something I used to do all the time because it just helped me to have less calories.
Yeah. So talking about the deficit then, what's your take on, it's going from one conversation to the next conversation. So what's your take on the cycle of bulking and cutting? Are you a fan of it, or do you feel like it should be a bit more
consistent? And I think we've experienced, like we're very similar now, but like we've experienced it firsthand. And I think you just get in this constant negative situation where you're never happy because when you're cutting, you're dieting down, you're looking great, but all you're thinking about is food, and you're thinking about the time that you used to be bulking when you could just eat anything. Then you flip that on its head and you start bulking, you start putting on a little bit more timber, and you're like, oh, I wish I was cutting again. And like it's that saying of you look your best when you feel your worst, and you feel your best when you look your worst. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
But like yeah, it's that thing, and that's why I hate it. And I've experienced firsthand how bad it can affect you and how deep of this cycle you can go. And I think there's this, and as I said before about a relationship with clients and food, and that's what I try and nail in straight from the off. It comes back to like tracking. And I think you can get so obsessed with tracking and get overly like putting in broccoli and peppers, and like we've done it. And I've done it to where you're weighing out your oats and it goes a gram over. So you get a gram and you put it back, and it's like, it's a gram of oats. Like who cares? And I've been to that point, and I've been to the point where you restrict calories so much that it's like you've got no energy, your training is rubbish, and you're just like an empty shell of a human. And all you're thinking about is food. And then, as I said, I then go, right, well, I'm going to start bulking again now. And you just like, oh, I want to. And I would genuinely say that I've probably made more progress in the last year and a half because my last time I've done either was when I was bulking, and I was towards 5,500 calories because of my job and because of being so active. And I've got good metabolism anyway. I was having to force the food in. And I think that kind of just got to a point, and it was almost, I'm glad it happened. I got to a point where I just got so annoyed by the whole thing. I'm just like, I can't stand this anymore. And I hate this constant cycle. So then I was like, right, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy my life a little bit. I'm going to just stay at maintenance. I'm just going to not track my food anymore. I'm just going to eat to perform well and listen to my body. And if I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm not hungry, I won't eat. And just, I know what my body needs. I know how much protein and what sources of protein I need to kind of eat. And I've probably made more progress in terms of every aspect, like strength, like muscle, like mobility in the last year and a half than I probably did in however long it was before that, because you're not giving your body what it needs when you're in that deficit. And then when you're in that bulk, you almost just like take it. It's just, yeah, I just don't like it. I could just keep going on about the same point, but, and like, you're the same, like you've had that negative reaction with a deficit.
You just get, I think you get obsessed with your food, and like food, yeah, we eat for enjoyment, but we shouldn't be so obsessed with it. And yeah, food fuels us for performance, but we shouldn't be so obsessive with it to the point of tracking things, like you said, excessively, and over trying to over consume to hit a certain target.
Well, it's like when a client will say like, oh well, I made a homemade lasagna or like spaghetti, and I put this. Like, how do I track it? And I'm like, just put the spaghetti and the meat in. That's what it doesn't matter. You don't need to put your onions, your peppers, your seasoning, your just that doesn't count. And I think that's where you can start getting down this dark hole with it. And like, well, actually, to be fair, so with my fitness pal, like we used to go on holiday, and Sarah would be tracking on holiday on my fitness pal, and I used to have a break from it. I was like, Sarah, get like, what are you doing? Just stop tracking. She's like, I'd just like to know. And
it's because you just get so obsessed.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like that. But
it really isn't healthy, is it? Though?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think I experienced something similar like that, but I think I got out of it really early. You just realize that you sacrifice the time that you should be socializing and having a good time with people. You're wasting that because you're too worried about, oh God, like I think I ate too much, this and that. I completely don't agree with anything that requires one cycle and then another cycle. Continuously going from one extreme to the extreme is not going to be good for your body. You have to find that balance in between. And like we said earlier, like I feel like this is where the fitness industry is going towards. I think we're going to move out of this phase where now the stereotype of a person that trains and is healthy looks like bloody Mr. Olympia. I think we need to get out of that mentality. And I think that's what's happened. I think
it is, 100%.
You look at 300, if you ever watched the movie 300, and everyone wanted to look like those guys, but what they didn't realize is behind the scenes, those guys were training like flipping tires and stuff. And people don't want that. People just want to look good for the sake of looking good and looking athletic. But it goes back to that analogy of a cat. I remember one of my exes used to have a cat, and I never was a fan of cats, even though I studied zoology. And I remember when the cat was sat on the bed, I would kick it over and it would fall on the side. And every time I kicked it over, it would land perfectly, softly on the ground. I'm just like, this is incredible. And I just became really obsessed with the cat. And just the way the cat moved, see, it's incredibly elegant. And it's just bringing about that elegance to our body. And I always wondered, I brought it back to human beings because obviously then I was studying animals. I was just thinking, why is it that human beings have lost this ability to move so elegantly? And I've learned it from my client as well. And he was just like, it's incredible how when you're there, when you're catching a ball, I had a session where I didn't drop the ball. We do this warm-up where we throw the ball at each other. There wasn't one single moment in that session that I dropped the catch. And he goes, how the fuck do you do it? And I said, well, I'm not trying to predetermine where the ball's going. I'm not trying to put all this into my head. I'm just letting it come. So when you're throwing the ball, I'm reacting to the ball. Whereas you're over-analyzing everything. How do I dive? How do I do this? What happens if I dive and get injured? It's that aspect that separates a person who's naturally athletic and who's not. I don't think it's natural. I just think it's the fact that you've exposed yourself to a lifestyle that requires that from a young age, where someone who hasn't had that active lifestyle for God knows 20 years of their life decides to do it, you're not going to have it. It's just creating those habits and those motor programs in you. So, yeah, I think it's a huge eye-opener for a lot of the fitness people now that this is where the fitness industry needs to move towards. And if you don't do it, you're going to fall behind.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see like how much, if it's like with all the functional areas that are now popping up, like you look at Pure Gyms, like the sort of kit that they brought in and the changes they made, and they had the rig and stuff. And to be honest, there's a few things that are as annoying that they haven't got, like the bars going out. But like, although to be fair, they are getting it. Well, actually, it was supposed to be, I think, this kind of time, but obviously it's closed. They were going to get a new rig in. What was I talking about? Yeah. So like, but you look at how many now new gyms are open that preach so much of here's a track and here's tires and here's sandbags, and trying to get people doing more functional aspects instead of just like this, there's a machine over there and there's a machine over there, go use the chest press. And it's helping people a lot more. And I think it boils down as well. Like, I just find it fun. Like, I don't get an enjoyment anymore. Like I used to, it was how I used to train, but I just get bored. Like we speak about it, didn't it? Like just sat on a chest press, like doing reps. I'm just bored. It doesn't faze me. But doing like a fun, more explosive, like powerful movement that's a bit more technical, I love. And like pushing your boundaries in terms of your fitness and in terms of pushing that like aerobic capacity, I just enjoy so much more. And my goal is just what I say to people is just to do cool shit. Like I almost train for everything to do. And I train everything to do anything. And it's like, if I wanted to just go outside and run, I could run, but tomorrow I won't wake up and be like, oh my God, my hips, my hamstrings. And I think that's what a lot of people then do, is they like, you look at how many people are now going running because they might not have been able to before, and they're hurting their knees and they're hurting all these ankles, and they're almost having this then negative effect. But it's when you look at all the aspects of fitness and all the aspects of training that we can have, and that's including the mobility and all the performance side of things, you can do so much more around that. And it boils back to, as I said right from the off, like when you focus on that, you get that aesthetics as well. Whereas when you just focus on the aesthetics, that's all you've got, and that's all you've got to show for it. And if someone says to you, oh, let's go on a sprint race, you'll pull your hamstring. Whereas it's like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in looking fit and you're not fit? Like, what? Like, who wants that?
It makes no logical sense whatsoever.
No.
That's why I got down the path of handstands. I became really obsessed with it because I got sick of the old shit. Funnily enough, I met one of my good friends, I forgot his name now, Scott. He's an amazing acrobat, and I met him in Pure Gym, in our Pure Gym when the old rig used to be there. And I saw him do these monkey bar swings, like missing a bar. And I'm just like, that's how we're supposed to move. Like, it's exactly how a monkey does it. You miss a bar, you use your momentum to catch the next one. But most people don't have the structural integrity in their shoulder to be able to do that, or to have that articulation. So it just shows how much we're lacking. And the fact that when you're exposed to people like that, it really opens up your eyes. And that's why I really got into handstand training. Skill-based training is definitely more pleasing to the eye. Like I used to train with one of my acrobat friends, Helena. She would be there for 3 hours, and I swear to God, if you ask the old trainers that were there back then, they'll tell you that you can literally just spend those 3 hours watching her train, and you can walk away feeling satisfied. Just because how elegant she was doing it. It just she had an amazing amount of grace towards her training, and people have an appreciation for that, and that's why sport is a big thing. And I think when you try and mimic that, but you take away that aspect, that elegance away from it, then you're just left with the exterior. Oh, she looks good, but fuck, she can't move. You know what I mean? It's just that straight away. You don't need to know anything about sport or fitness to realize that person, yeah, they look great, but they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How long has it been?
I've potentially got a call in like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I think we're going to wrap it up. It's about an hour and a half. Right. Man, that was amazing. I think it's going to delve into another part, I think, at some point. But yeah, that was awesome. I don't know how you guys found it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Hopefully we catch up before lockdown's over.
Well, yeah, like we said, we're enjoying this lockdown, so I wouldn't mind catching up with you guys like this as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm going to put your links, your Instagram stuff, and all the social media links on my description of this video. So this was podcast number 14. I think I mentioned it was 13 at the start, but it's 14. I was joined by Alex and Sarah. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this. It's a different insight to the usual stuff we talk about. But yeah, we'll catch you next time. And this will be on Spotify, YouTube, and a preview will be on Instagram. If you guys want, I'll send you the video and you guys can post it as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Done. Right. See you guys later.